Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. Excuse me. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst, and today I'm here with Dr. Lynn Banis. Now, we're going to have a really important conversation, so hang in there. Let me tell you a little bit about her. There are seasons in a woman's life when the future she believed she was building disappears and the woman she used to be no longer seems to exist. Within 3 years, Dr. Lynn Banis lost her mother, her younger brother, and her husband. These losses did not simply leave her heartbroken. They shook her identity, her motivation, and her sense of purpose. Despite her education as a psychologist and her many years of coaching others, she discovered that grief could not be solved by knowledge alone. So, this conversation is for the woman whose life no longer looks the way she expected, the woman who may have survived the, the immediate crisis, but is still quietly asking, what do I do with the rest of my life? Lynn, thank you so much for being here on Women Like Me Stories in Business.
I am delighted. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, wow. Well, let's just get right into it. You had some very profound losses within a very short period of time, 3 years. Who were you before those losses, and what did your life look like at that time?
Well, I was a caretaker. My mom stayed with us from the time she was 100 till she passed at 106. So,
Wow, that's
so
longevity.
yes, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, and our relationship was always good, but we just became so close that was a gift. That was a real gift. And I was yeah, we were retired, and so we were trying to do some things that where we could leave mom and and just have fun because we both worked really really hard all our lives, and loved having family over on weekends for pool parties and barbecue and things like that. And I'm just kind of a quiet person, and so I spent a lot of time needle pointing. I gave everybody a little mini stocking at Christmas with their name
Oh.
on it. And was up to about 22 of them. It was,
Oh.
yeah, it was getting really a lot. Um, and so, just leading a pretty quiet life and enjoying the great food around Virginia Beach because we're right on the water, so the seafood is
Nice,
incredible.
nice, nice. Well, when
So
your husband,
still a mom and
yes,
grandma. Yeah,
and
great
grandma,
grandma.
perfect. How many grandkids?
8 grandkids, four great grands, and a new one on the way.
Wow. Well, that keeps you busy. I can
Yes.
see why you're saying the needle pointing doesn't stop. Wow. Well, when your husband died unexpectedly, what changed beyond the loss of the man that you loved?
Oh, absolutely every single thing. From the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed, and sometimes the middle of the night. There is such, I mean, it's like being untethered, in a hot air balloon or something, and just being at the whim of the winds. You know, you just, you just absolutely, I mean, I can't think of anything that doesn't change. Even your relationships with your children and your grandchildren, because now you're the only one. And um, I found the little ones trying to take care of me, and the bigger ones would call and check on me, so that changed. I mean, they came to Nana's house to swim
Yes,
and have
yes.
good barbecue. But so it's just your relationships with your friends change.
Mm,
You have to move into a mode of filling out all sorts of legal forms and stuff and financial in the very beginning. And then everybody goes back to their lives and you're alone.
yeah,
And that is probably the biggest, most difficult change.
yeah. Well, you initially called your lack of motivation laziness. How often do grieving women judge themselves for what may actually be exhaustion, depression, or the body's response to trauma? And I guess that can be any woman. It doesn't have to
Yes.
be a woman in grief.
No, it doesn't. And I want to clarify that a little bit because we don't realize what grief really is. Grief is, well, trauma is the exact thing that happened. And then grief takes over and it acts the same no matter what. You lose your job, you become an empty nester, you retire, you get divorced. Just, there's a list of close to 100 different things that are considered losses that put you into the grief cycle. So
Mhm.
it's a big deal. And I forgot your question.
Oh, that's well, how we're so exhausted,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
may
yeah.
see that we may judge ourselves as being lazy, but really there's so much more
There
than
is.
yeah, and it's not laziness.
No, it is not laziness. It is what your brain takes over. Well, of course, you get the emotion first, and then the brain takes over, and it gets very confused because it can't figure out it. Its job is to protect you, and it can't figure out what's going on, and it takes it a while, and then those things keep changing and changing almost daily. And
Mm,
part of it is your body's reaction. You are exhausted. It is taking so much energy to deal with all of the emotions and the fear and and that's an emotion obviously, but all of the things that go with it drain you and put pressure on your heart, put in your organs, and it's a matter of, really, most of my clients will say, I could barely get out of bed.
mm,
And for me, if it wasn't for my dogs, I probably would have stayed there for a while. Um, so it is not laziness. But those of us brought up with a good white Anglo-Saxon, you know, um, Protestant, whatever, everybody, and that can be anybody. It doesn't have to be just, somebody
yes.
raised that way, but um, you're used to producing, you're used to doing things and getting stuff done, and you feel like, I can't, I just can't go pick up the kitchen. And then you feel like you start chastising yourself because you think you're lazy. And that's
Mm,
all upbringing. And we need to really deal with that because that's a self-limiting belief and it gets in the way of us recovering and moving
mm,
on. Not moving
yeah,
on, I said moving forward.
moving forward. Yes, yeah. Well, what are the challenges that begin after the traditional stages of grief are over? So, when the outside world assumes that you should be better now.
Well, that can happen in corporate America after day three because that's
Yes,
what we get.
that's true. That's true.
And yeah, there's a ton of them because that's when I start working with people. They have some ability to manage their emotions, and so their brain fog is lifting, and they can make decisions. We know that when we have a lot of emotion going on, our brain shuts down. It goes into fight or flight, and it cannot make rational decisions. So, I wait until they're at that point where they can, because my work with them is transformational. And so, some of the things, of course, they have already been exposed to the loss of friends.
Yes.
And And if and when they go to work, they're getting bombarded with what's wrong with you? Aren't you better yet? Your work isn't as good as it used to be. What's going on? So there's that non-acceptance of and not understanding how long it takes to go through grief. I mean, it takes the first year, you're just trying to get things, get your mind straight. And then the second year, you have to deal with this is not going to change. The person's gone, the job's gone, whatever it is. And that can be harder for some people. So, it just really takes a long time. And we have to be educated, which is part of what I do,
Yes,
as
yes.
to how you help somebody that's going through
Yeah.
this. And, then you get well, who am I? What am I supposed to do now? It's everything's gone that I cherished. And that's where we can really start looking at, okay, your life has changed, and you cannot rebuild it the way it was, because that part of it is gone. So, we try as human beings to
Yeah.
rebuild something the same way it was before, but we can't do that in this instance.
Hmm.
So that's all of that is part of what goes through their minds. Also, if someone wants to they want to date, for instance, they think, oh, well, people are going to really judge me if I start dating. They're going to think I didn't love my husband. They didn't, all of those things come into
Yeah.
play because you're very sensitive to how people are reacting to you, because it's so
Mhm.
different. They don't know how to react to you, so they kind of back off. They don't want to say something that'll hurt your feelings. They don't know what to
Mm.
say because we don't have that kind of a education in our society.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of those questions about who am I and what do I do and what do other people think, it just is overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, how do we recognize the self-limiting beliefs that are blocking our next chapter?
That's good, because let me just start with, if you hear yourself saying should, ought, must, need to, that's a red flag.
Oh, okay.
That's a red flag. And my question is, says who? So go back and think, where did that come from? And am I living my dad's life because that's what he thought? And then we discuss it, in a gentle way, obviously. That was a little harsh.
Yeah,
But
no, no. Well, but it's a good because it does sort of shock you out of it for a second. And
it
I think
does.
sometimes we need to be shocked out of
We
our
do.
our thought processor.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, who said?
Yeah. And
Where is that written
that
down?
that came from my mom when she told me that nice girls don't hold hands with boys in public.
Yeah.
Mom,
Yeah.
what what decade
Yes.
do you live in? What century?
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
like that. But it's really important to go back and look at those and say, okay, what good does this do me? Because there's always a benefit. And generally, self-limiting beliefs are protection of some sort for us.
Mm.
So if I believe that I must not even engage with the opposite gender, then where did that come from? And what is it protecting me from? Well, it may be protecting me from the criticism of somebody
Mm.
else. It may protect me from being looked at as a whatever you want to call, any of those things. So we get down to the bottom of that and really say, well, give me some examples. I need to see some proof. Where is that true in your life? Now,
Right.
it may be true with family and friends, and then we go into, well, what does that mean, and work through. And it's not only the self-limiting belief, but it's also mindset. We
Mm,
have to clear those things so that we can have a better perspective on what could be, because they just narrow us so that we can't even think outside of that little narrow box that we've got ourselves in.
yeah. Well, can you give us an example of a belief that maybe you had to release, and the more empowering belief that you chose in its place?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that's what we do, is replace it with a belief that empowers us and
Mm,
sustains us. Oh, let me think here. Um, I at first really went with, I can't burden my children with this, until I said to myself, wait a minute, they're grieving too. We
mhm.
need to grieve as a family. And that's the belief then I took on. And I made sure that we got together often enough to talk about things, and that we wouldn't let it get maudlin. We'd keep it on the surface and easy. And even the first Thanksgiving, I just could not go to my daughter's
Yeah,
house. I just couldn't see that empty chair. It just was not something I could do. And let yourself, that's okay. If that's where you are, that's okay. But shortly thereafter, I got this idea, and I gave everybody in the family, children included, a little mason jar. And I said, until Christmas, I want you to think about your grandpa, and anything that you did with him, good or bad, funny, not funny, anything he said, whatever conversation you had, write it on a slip of paper and put it in this jar. So then on Christmas, after we had our dinner, we got those out and started reading them, and it was so healing, because we started to laugh and share stories, and just honor the person that wasn't there. And it made it okay. The kids felt better about, it's okay to talk about this thing that's happened, because
yeah.
children will find a way to make it their fault.
Yes, yes, yeah. What a beautiful way to remember him, and also for things like you must have been surprised on a few things, like, oh,
Oh,
I didn't
sure.
know you had that conversation, or I didn't know he said that to you, or
Yeah.
yeah, wow,
Yeah,
that's beautiful,
it really
really.
was. It really was. And the other thing we did at Christmas was, I just could not face making, why do we have to have this big turkey dinner? And we've got to go through all of that. So I got the
Yeah,
kids together. I said, what should we do? You're at the age where you don't like sitting at the table with a bunch of
yeah,
adults. And they said, well, let's just have it easy. So let's just get all sorts of fixings and make our own sandwiches. So we did that one year. We did Rubens another year. We did lasagna another year. So we just have it so that we can open gifts and sit down and have something easy to nosh on, and eat, from our laps, or from a table if
yes,
we want.
yeah,
And boy, the kids have just been fantastic about it, and the adults enjoy it too. It's
yeah,
just so much more laid back.
yeah, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves during those holidays.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Yes, we
yeah.
do.
And then we end up not liking them because it's just like such a burden.
I know. Well, it's so much
Yeah.
work, and
Yeah.
I always had help, but Bill was a wonderful cook, but he didn't do turkeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
He would do some of the sides, and then the girls would all bring something.
Yeah.
But still, it's a lot of effort.
Yeah. It brought me back listening to you. It brought me back to say who said it has to be this way? Who said it has to be a great big turkey, and why can't it just be lasagna? Why can't it be sandwiches? Why can't it just be sitting around the living room and food in our laps?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
get so stuck on these traditions sometimes that it could just be so much easier.
Yeah, yeah, and more fun.
and more fun
Yeah,
for
I'm not
everybody.
worrying about everything getting on the table hot.
Yeah, no, I
You
love that. Yeah. Well, how can a woman tell when she needs professional mental health support rather than trying to navigate on her own?
That is a great question because, someone who is trained professional can tell you, for instance, a coach can say, this is something where you need to get, therapy. But if you get so stuck that you just don't know which way to turn, your emotions are all crazy, um, and you just can't seem to get out of that. To me, I kind of got this vision that it was like this deep well, and you couldn't get a handhold to get out of it. So if that's normal to have something like that, but if it is consistent and it lasts
Mhm.
a month, a couple of months, then I would say, it really would be very, very helpful to see somebody that can
Yeah.
help you through this.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe nobody should have to go through it alone.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Yeah. Well, why do some of us feel guilty when we laugh or travel or fall in love or build a business or experience joy again? So, where does that guilt come from? Why are we feeling guilty?
Because of our self-limiting beliefs, what we believe about it. And I
Mhm.
must say, guilt to me is a useless emotion because you can either do
Yeah.
something about it or you can't. And if you can't, let it go. It's in the past, it's
Yeah.
happened. There's nothing you can do about it. But we do feel that way. And it does come from our perceptions of what other people are um, how they're experiencing us.
Mm.
But that all goes back to our belief system and our self-limiting beliefs and the framework that we work under. And some people can deal with those things very easily, and some people can't. It just depends on what's happened in your life.
Yeah. And I guess it's judgment as well from the public. I was just thinking because I have a stepsister who passed away many, many years ago, and she was married, and her husband didn't wait too long before finding someone else. But and there was so I have six stepsisters, so one of them passed away, so there was five still left, and they were angry. They were so angry at him that they felt like he hadn't given enough time, all of this. And I remember thinking he's lonely. He's never lived alone, the poor man. Like, leave him alone. She's not coming back.
Yes, and I think there's a couple things to think about that. Yes, you're lonely. You're terribly lonely. I was even yesterday morning, I got up and I thought, this is a time when I would have gone to Bill for a big bear hug
Oh,
because of the way I
yeah.
was feeling.
Yeah.
And that loneliness can drive you to seek somebody else. You need to give yourself time, though, to do some healing.
Hmm.
Um, Bill and I used to work together on some stuff, and we found that divorcees, people who've been divorced, male and female, usually takes 2 to 5 years for them to get to a point where they really are ready to give themselves to somebody else.
Hmm.
You've thrown up all these protections of your heart and your feelings
Yeah.
that those have to be gone through. But it works for some people. But I would caution people,
Yes.
frankly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of bringing up divorce? Because I was divorced in my early 30s, and it was like a death. It really was like a death.
It
He was
is.
still there, but I was very close to his mother, his siblings, but they were all gone.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I include things like divorce. That's why I moved from totally widows to look at other things women have to go through, because there's so many that causes us to lose our identity. And
Yeah.
that throws us into this whole new world that is foreign. We don't know how to manage it. We don't know the steps to take. And our brain is just not with us
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true, because it's not just that you lose the person, but you often lose the connections. Even the people that, a couple you used to go out to dinner with a lot, they often don't call anymore because they can't stand to see that empty chair and they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so uncomfortable for them that it's easier
Yeah.
just to not engage.
Yeah. Yeah. Which doesn't help the person
It
who's
doesn't
going through
help.
it.
It doesn't
Yeah.
help, but
Yeah.
that's the way it is. And
Yes. That,
so
yeah. Yeah. Well, how do you answer a woman who says, I don't know who I am anymore?
I say, okay, well, let's figure out who you were. Tell me a little bit about who you were before this
Mm,
happened. And then we start to peel back the layers of garbage that we have taken on as a woman, that we really don't need to carry. And we peel that all back until I feel like we're down to the bones. We're down to, here's what you came here to be, and here's who you are at the very, very core of yourself. That
mhm.
takes time, that takes effort, but it is so important to do, because at that point, we are sure that we've worked through the self-limiting beliefs and mindset. We've worked through the changes in values, because they do change. If I'm no longer a wife, then what are my values around? I mean, that was a big value. So
Mhm.
we look at that, and then we align that with your behaviors, and keep going until we have a very clear picture, not only of all of that stuff, but also of what it's like when you're in flow. I think that is an important thing, because if we are going to create a new life, then you have to have the life that feeds your soul. You're doing what you want to do and you do best, and you have created an environment that will support that, so you don't fall back, so you
Mhm.
have something permanent that feeds your soul, and that you can again enjoy living without giving up parts of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. What about job loss?
Well, job loss can be very, very similar. People who particularly have been in a job for a very long time.
Mm,
And what I see happening,
mhm.
because we are humans, is when things start not working, we try harder. The same way we've been doing it. That doesn't work. We try harder. We try harder. And it
Yeah.
gets us in more trouble. Then we lose our job, and it's like, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed myself? Who am I?
Yeah.
What am I going to? And it's very panicky and incredibly scary. But your brain and your body go through the same stuff as, a death, any kind of trauma, because
Yeah.
it is traumatic,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
very traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you've poured your heart and soul into it. And yeah, like you say, you see your identity in there, and all of a sudden it's yeah, I was in a sales career for 34 years, and I retired a year and a half ago. And my husband and I were out camping the day that my license would have expired. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I grabbed my phone, and it was like 2 in the morning, and I went to go to my email, and it was gone. It was, I mean, it just gone. 34 years, and that's how easily you can just be gone. Now that
Yep.
was my choice, of course, but it was still,
It's
it's
still
scary.
shattering. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm laying there at 2 o'clock in the morning in the pitch black out in the wilderness, looking at my phone going, I can't
What?
even, like, I've used that email for 34 years. Well, not quite because I didn't have email back then, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah, it can be. There's so, I think grief, people, we talk about grief, and I think people think, oh, grief is related to death, but what
Yes,
you're saying is there's grief is related to so much more.
it is. And I would venture that we are all grieving right now and
Mhm.
have been for quite some time due to the loss of what our life was like before COVID,
Oh,
all the
yes.
changes that are happening globally. I mean, it's like every time you put the news on or whatever, there's something that's changed
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
impacts us. And it
yes,
is very, very unhealthy because we stay in that state and our body has to keep trying to overcome and to stabilize. And we're calling it mostly stress and overwhelm and all of those words now because we don't understand that it's really grief.
yeah, yeah. I get it. I see that. Yeah. I want everyone to know that you will be able to reach out to Lynn. So we're going to have information where you can find her, when you can connect with her in the show notes. So don't hesitate to reach out to her, and they will all be there for you.
Can I
Lynn,
add one little thing that
yes, of
I
course.
have for them?
Yes.
I have just created a membership platform that is like Facebook in that there are groups, there are experts on there who are giving programming and articles and stuff to read and songs to listen to. And then I have created a whole bunch of mentors that
Yes.
if you feel just like, I feel so terrible today, I don't know, I just feel terrible today, you can go to one of these and it will work through what you're feeling, what that's like, what you've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, blah, 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 all that stuff that a coach would do. And then it gives you 3 steps you could take right now to begin to move you out of that space. So
Excellent.
it's free right now. I would love people to feel free to go there and check it out and see. I mean, it's 24/7, 365. So it's for
Yeah.
really for people who just are in a terrible spot right now and need help.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's fabulous, Lynn. So that we will have access to that in the
Yeah.
show notes. Absolutely. Yes. Lynn, I wanted to ask you about our past because I have what I deal with women like me is we're writing parts of our life stories in collaborative
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
and everybody has a past, but
Yes.
we really grieve our past. So how can we as women get? How can we deal with a past that you, I mean, you can, and we started this podcast, 45 minutes ago or so. We can't change how it started. Well, I guess we can delete it, but
Yeah.
but
We
it
can't
is,
delete our life.
no, we can't. It is what it is. So how can we deal with a past that we're grieving over our past?
That is something that is really it's kind of rampant because we seem like we all do it. I think it's connected to some kind of guilt often, and it's it's in the realm of things look better in the future than they do when I look backwards.
Mm,
And I think it's really healthy to do a timeline and identify all of those different things and then go back and say, all right, how old was I? All right, what did that little girl of 9 years old understand about this that I understand now? And that really helps because sometimes it's just circumstances, Sometimes it's something you did, sometimes it's something somebody did to you, all of those things. But remember, you were different then. Your whole mind, your understanding, your experience, all different. So then, if you can go back and try to soothe that child, let them know that they're still loved and that you're there for them, and go all the way through that timeline like that, that is an incredible help.
Ah, love it. Thank you for that. Okay, let's talk about women rising together.
Yes.
So, what led you to create that?
Well, my own experience. It's all from lived experience. And I just, went through the my whole grieving process. And about a year after Bill passed, I just kind of woke up and thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I have those skills and techniques and background and everything. I've been through this. I can help people.
Yes.
And so that's what got me started on it, because like I said, nobody should have to go through this alone.
No.
Nobody should have to go to grief groups that end up being pity parties. You know, there is help available, and it's healthy, and
Mhm.
it will help you through the process a little faster. Not that it's going to be woo, it's over, because it's
Yes.
not the way grief is,
Right.
but at least you have somebody. This is what I tell clients or prospective clients. It's important to find somebody who knows what they're doing, who can take you by the hand and walk you through this process. Don't try to do it by yourself. We just, as human beings, we can't just, get inside of us and see all of these things that someone on the
Yeah.
outside can help us bring up and deal with.
Yes. Yeah. Well, why is connection with other women so important during reinvention?
Because, well, I put my clients in a mastermind type group. Once they've got
Oh,
their new life planned, they go into a mastermind group where they support each other for a whole year as they transition and make a full transition and feel like, okay, I'm good now. But most of the time they say, we don't want to quit. We love each other.
yeah.
So, but
Oh,
and that's fine. But it helps make, here's what I think. Coaching and working with someone tends we tend to look at it like it's a problem, and problems need to be fixed.
mhm.
I look at it like there comes a threshold, and a threshold does not need to be fixed. A threshold needs to be crossed. And most of the work a lot of people do stops at the threshold. They think, oh, well, we're fixed and she's better and yeah, blah, 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 blah. No, the biggest thing is making that journey into the future in a safe way that results in, as I said before, living a life that supports you and that you don't have to give yourself up for.
Mhm.
So, I think that that whole process is just, it's amazing, and it's so
Yeah.
beautiful to see.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what is one small action that a woman can take today to begin reconnecting with herself?
I think it is looking at yourself, looking at everything you've experienced and your knowledge, the whole 9 yards, kind of take a little inventory and say, and realize that everything has come together at this point in your life, and you have what you need to deal with this. You may not know how to get to it. And that's when you find somebody that can help you. But
Mm,
you have the strength and the skills. You just need to tap into them because they're there, even if it feels horrible, and it's a rotten time. It hurts,
yeah.
but you can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, Lynn, I have enjoyed this conversation so much, and I think that I think what's really important is for people to realize that, like you say, we're grieving. Turn off the news, people. I'm
Yes.
I'm just I'm as much, I've got it on, but
Uh-oh.
turn it off. Maybe we need to turn it off for a while.
Yeah.
But the grief is really, it's about losing someone. It's about loss of any kind, I guess, in our
Yes, it
lives.
is. It is.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that if we understand that, and then we understand that we are grieving, then we can reach out and get help.
Yes. Yeah, and that's right, because recognition is one of the first things to solving anything.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Well, let me ask you one last question before we close. What do you hope your life and work teach women about grief, personal power, and the possibility of being again?
I want women to understand that life isn't over
Mm.
when you're going through this, and that you came here for a purpose. You have a purpose for your life. It's important. Tap into that, find out what that is, and then rebuild um, based on that, because whatever your purpose is will feed your soul. It will come back to you in joy and contentment and happiness and all of those things. So that's the big picture.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for being willing to take the time to come and do this with me, and inspire and encourage and help other women out there, because as I said, and as you said, there's a lot of grief going on out there, and it's
Yeah.
not just because someone's passed on. It's life, just life.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
and sometimes we need to get a little help to get through that. So,
Yes.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lynn. I
Oh, thank
appreciate it.
you. I
Oh,
loved
you're
it. I loved it. I loved being here with you. It's wonderful.
oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank all of you for being here on this another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. And we will see you all again another time. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.